Now, today, you are here to hear from LevelPath and GATX, how GATX brought AI native procurement into the enterprise. And with us today are two amazing speakers, and I'm really excited to introduce you to them. And so, first up, I'm going to introduce you to Bob Campbell. Now, he is the Director of Sourcing and Procurement at GATX. And he has also then leads a team responsible for managing over 200 million in annual spend across direct, indirect, and capital categories. With over a decade at GATX and a strong foundation in supply chain leadership, Bob brings deep expertise in category management, supplier quality, and demand planning. His prior experience spans global sourcing roles at Navistar and ArcelorMittal, with a focus on cost optimization and strategic procurement. I'm just getting to know Bob, but he's becoming quickly one of my favorites, and he's going to tell you about GATX in a few minutes. And with us today is Mari Carmichael. Now, Mari is amazing, head of solutions consulting at LevelPath. She's one of my favorite folks to have on a webinar. She is so thoughtful and just so intelligent. She directs the vision and the execution of customer experience across the entire customer lifecycle, from the go-to-market initiatives to the post-implementation support. Now, prior to joining LevelPath, she focused on strategic partnerships at Workday and customer success at Scout RFP. She is just an amazing avid traveler and food enthusiast, often exploring new cultures through their cuisines and trying to recreate the dishes at home. And she's about as big as my pinky. So I don't know how she likes to cook so much. She doesn't like to eat. So anyways, welcome to Mari and Bob. I am going to go off screen. Now, folks, we are going to take your questions at the end. And so make sure you put them in. If we don't get to all your questions today, our presenters have said that they will follow up with everyone with the written answers. So keep the questions coming, and then we will hold the questions until the end. Yes, I've already gotten the question a couple times. We will send a recording today's webinar and the slides to you in about 24 hours after we are completed once we render it to its permanent location. And so with that, Mari and Bob, welcome and take it away.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much to Dawn and the entire SIG org. It's always a pleasure to be at these events and these webinars. And like they mentioned, looking forward to potentially meeting you all in person at some of the upcoming SIG events. They're always great time. But let's get to why we are here today. Let's talk about AI native shift and what has been happening in the world. We know we want to hear from Bob, but let's take a step back and want to kind of talk through, how software and how things have evolved over the past few decades. Now, going back several decades, think back to when things were on-prem. We had big servers, we had big rooms and fans and things like that. And then we went through a shift to go to the cloud. So thinking about cloud native and bringing everything more virtual. The next shift that we saw across the board was the shift to mobile, having a little computer in your pocket here. And so that's really what has defined kind of the 2010s, if you will. And now with the 2020s, we have this concept of being AI native. I remember the day that ChatGPT came out in late 2022, and I was like, what is this cool technology? And just had to get my hands on it and play around with it. So really, we've seen a lot of the evolution with technology evolve over the past several decades. And I personally am really excited to be a part of seeing how AI is really bringing a lot of value and benefits to enterprises today. So you might be thinking to yourself, what does AI native actually mean? We're hearing a lot of these buzzwords, AI native and AI powered. What does it really mean for you all? And for us, how we define it is we think about having been built with AI from day one. So when we built the platform of LevelPath, with starting in 2022, right around the time when ChatGPT was really hitting the masses, we thought to ourselves, this feels big, and we should make sure we incorporate it into our technology. So from day one, we've woven AI into kind of the fabric of our foundation, of our platform, and really to be able to be flexible and change different models out, because as we all know, this technology is changing so rapidly. Next up, being future ready by design. So being architected, like I said, from day one, building from the ground up and making sure that how we're building this platform can evolve with you as your needs grow, change, and evolve over time. And finally, AI doing the work. We all want to be more efficient and somehow get more time in the day. There just never seems to be enough time. And so the way we think about it is, we're not trying to replace any of us. We know we all have very important roles and establish ourselves in our companies. And so our goal is to help you work smarter, not harder. So with that, ultimately, what we're getting to is being AI native is driving time savings. We want to take things that used to take days and hours and condense that down into minutes. Things that took minutes now can take seconds, again, making you all more efficient and get more done with the resources that we have. All right, so Level Path is AI native. Now, again, what does that mean? Like I said, timing is everything. With 2022, with Level Path being founded early on that year, and when ChatGPT came to the masses in November, we kind of stopped to ourselves to think, we want to make sure we can incorporate this. It feels big. We were utilizing it in our personal lives. I downloaded ChatGPT onto my phone and started playing around with it. And we wanted to make sure that we could incorporate it to bring this value to the enterprises that we would be working with. So as we look at the slide here, how we've architected Level Path is we have that platform layer, focusing on integrations, being able to connect to other tools, and bringing AI native capabilities to the forefront as well. And so we'll hear from Bob from GATX on things like generative AI, co-pilots, even OCR scanning documents, a number of different ways that we've incorporated AI into the platform throughout. So you might be thinking to yourself, what kind of applications can we utilize today? Well, today with Level Path, we are focusing on the stakeholder experience. So on the left-hand side, these are all the applications that we have going from a source to contracting perspective today. All right, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, if I were to utilize this tool, what could I potentially gain from it? So wanted to highlight just some examples of different areas, different use cases from our customers throughout a number of different industries on how they are getting value out of the tool today. So whether it's time savings, increasing spend under management, the ability to not need to increase headcount because the current team has been so efficient, making you faster with cycle times or ultimately consolidating contracts. Lots of different opportunities across the board. Well, with that, I know why we are all here today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bob, who is really the star of the show, to talk through his story with GATX. Bob, over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Mari. So before I get started, I want to give a little background on GATX. We're a company that's over 100 years old. We have transportation assets all across North America, Canada, and the US. We have a presence in Europe. We have a presence in India. And primarily my team, we focus supporting our maintenance network. So as part of our full service offering to our customers, we maintain our railcar assets for our customers. So that includes tank cars, freight cars, hopper cars, box cars, you name it. And we have a small but agile and ambitious team. But as a lot of you all know, over the past several years, responsibilities have definitely increased, whether that's supply chain disruptions, tariffs, ESG focus. Basically, our responsibilities have increased quite a bit, but the challenge is we have the same headcount that we had before. So really what we're trying to do, kind of as Mari said, we're trying to be more efficient. We're not trying to necessarily work harder, but we are trying to work faster. So our challenge is we're at a crossroads. We're trying to bridge the gap. So we want to get to a certain place, but we still have the same headcount. So, ultimately what that did is that we decided we needed to find a tool that could help make us more efficient, what we currently manage now, and also be able to handle more responsibilities. That's really what brought us to Level Path. So we got together, we formed a checklist of different criteria that was important when selecting a tool to really try to take our team to the next level. So a few of those key criteria include AI capabilities and workflow functionality, which I'll get to in a little bit. But we also want to make sure that we could handle our current responsibilities. We wanted to handle them better than we were in the past. And in the past, what we've been using SharePoint quite a bit. It's more of a static tool. It's not quite as dynamic. It's manual. It's a little bit more of a challenge to handle what we need to handle. But at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We were trying to get some more efficiencies from a new tool. And just as from some background, over the past 7 or 8 years, we've been using Scout. We evolved over to Workday, and those were great tools, but they were really just ERFX tools. They were great for use for large, complex source events. It created visibility to source events. So it was a one-stop shop. All the questions, all the RFPs would run through these tools, but we really needed something more, and we really needed to expand our responsibilities, and that's ultimately what led us to LevelPath. So we got a lot of quick early wins for moving to LevelPath. I'll touch on a few of them here. We moved off SharePoint. We're still in that process now. We've moved quite a bit of our contracts off SharePoint, moved some of our rebate contracts off SharePoint. We moved our category strategies completely off SharePoint. And as part of that too, we've also been leveraging Copilot, which was probably one of the most exciting things, at least initially when we were evaluating LevelPath, is the use of Copilot. And it's fantastic for bid analysis. And I'll get into a deep dive on the next slide of what that really means, but it allows us to compare bids quickly, side by side, comparing price, comparing other factors in 10 or 15 seconds, when in the past it'd take hours depending on how many bids you were comparing. And then also too, as the highlight, we've been able to unlock quite a bit of savings opportunities using some of the OCR technology. And that's been fantastic. We've been able to drop in our contracts into LevelPath. And if you have a question, or if you're trying to search for specific terms or conditions, as we all know, some of our contracts are 70 to 80 pages in length, which is a lot. And we're able to search for specific terms, ask specific question, and pull out anything you're really looking for. Warranty language, termination clauses, all of that information you're able to pull out pretty quickly. And that really gets to managing some of the stuff that we've already done in the past and doing it more efficiently. And we've been able to pull a LevelPath within a week. We rolled it out about two to 3 months ago, and the deployment was really quick. And we've had a great customer support team that's been able to help us through that process. We were able to get source events up and running very quickly, which was important because we really wanted to get momentum quickly, get some early momentum quickly to really build that credibility for the tool, to really get that buy-in. And then also, we're trying to integrate LevelPath into our capital process. So we have a change order process currently, which is rather manual, and capital is a big part of our responsibilities for our team. So anytime there's a change in design, there's a change in scope, there's a change in price, we require a change order is complete for capital. So the way it works now is we have a template, we have to fill that in manually, and then we have to rely on the requester to send the template to the right people to get it signed off by the right people. But it's a very manual process, and we want to automate that using the workflow functionality within LevelPath. So to give you a little deep dive of the Copilot AI bid comparisons, what it's able to do is once you receive all your bids back, whether they're in Word document or PDF or Excel or responses to RFP questions, you're able to ask the tool to provide a summary for you, and it will provide side-by-side comparisons for each vendor based on price and any other factors you think are important when comparing vendors. And that's really something an analyst used to do, but with Copilot, it's kind of our own analyst now. And it's even more powerful when you're comparing bids with 10 plus vendors. It becomes much more powerful because you can do the same thing in 10 or 15 seconds and get that information back. And that's really been a pain point for some of our shops in the past, is putting together those bid tabs, doing the bid analysis, which I'll get to in a little bit when it comes to change management, because that's so important with a tool like this. Also, as far as supplier enrichment processes, we've been able to leverage the tool to identify different vendors, alternative vendors, than the ones that we currently use now. And again, that's been a pain point for some of our shops for some niche categories that we may not have expertise with, or a lot of expertise with, or they might be just specific for certain regions. We're able to ask the tool for specific suppliers that may be able to compete. Because one of the questions we get from our shops quite a bit is, we can only find one bid, we can only find 2 suppliers. And we really need to get more than that. We really need more competition, which ultimately drives more savings. And this tool is very helpful for that. And then a last piece here that I want to mention as well, and this really gets it back into the sourcing events we might not have a lot of expertise in. It can help you generate RFP questions for those categories. So you can put in a specific category and put it for a specific region if you'd like, and it'll generate RFP questions for you. So not only does it help you do the analysis, it helps you build the sourcing event as well, which ultimately saves a lot of time, and that ultimately is how it really helps us get buy-in with our shops. So as far as cross-functional AI, what we have in use right now, and this is more so at the corporate level, that's where we started first when it comes to change management, because we thought we would get better compliance at the corporate level first. So as I mentioned, we're doing bid tabulation now. And another piece too, and I didn't even mention this is something that's kind of hot off the press, and LevelPath introduced this to us a couple days ago, is we're doing selection matrices as well in LevelPath, which has been very helpful. So as part of our procurement policies, we require that our shops put together bid tabs, like I mentioned, and then we also want them to put together selection matrices too. And ultimately, the value in a selection matrix is it allows us to take into account qualitative factors when selecting a vendor. It's not just price, there's qualitative factors that we try to quantify with the selection matrix. So we're working on pre-building templates in LevelPath now to ultimately allow the tool to do some evaluations for us. So again, the bid analysis and the selection matrices, you want to still review them, you still want to spot check, but it gets you 80 to 90% of the way there, which saves a lot of time. Also, for using OCR, which I mentioned for contracts, we're able to search contracts for specific terms and conditions, anything that we think is relevant to that contract, or it's important, because sometimes you get asked questions about warranty language or termination language, and you can get that information on the fly and answer that information quickly. But also, as far as OCR, it's also helpful too, because when we're using SharePoint in the past, when we used to load category strategies and contracts into SharePoint, we'd have to manually input the category type, the estimated amount of spend, the renewal dates, all the information we think is relevant. But with the OCR technology and LevelPath, we're able to just attach and drop it in, and the OCR technology will pull that information out for you. So again, it's about saving time, as Mari mentioned. And then also we're using Copilot to build sourcing questions too, like I mentioned before. And then our goal is to roll this out at all of our shops. So our first focus for change management was at corporate, because we thought we get better compliance there and get some early wins, build some credibility, get some momentum, and then leverage that at the shop network. So moving into training and change management. So as I mentioned, we've been using Scout, we've been using Workday, so we have a little bit of experience rolling out tools like these. So one of the things that we really try to focus on when we're trying to institute change across our network, obviously we need to embed it in our procurement policies or capital procurement policies, but it's more than that. It's one thing to put on paper, it's another thing to actually implement it at the shop level and at corporate. And the way we do that is not just the trainings, although that's important, it's a good first start, but we really need to listen to our shops and understand their pain points and try to find a solution like LevelPath that's able to not only solve our problems, but also solve their problems. in reality, you would think we both have a lot of the same problems, but they have different incentive structures to them than we might. So their problems might be a little bit different than ours. So if we can get any type of alignment, that's beneficial for us. So a few things that we've been selling to our shops to get adoption is obviously with using Copilot, we can do quick bid analysis, we can do quick selection matrices. But in addition to that, we're able to help them identify new competition for certain categories. But that's really our main focus with our shops, to really get that adoption. And with senior leadership, it's a little bit different. We get more controls in place, like I mentioned with the change order process. Since it's automated, we don't have to rely on the requester to make sure that the change order goes to the right approver. It will go to the right approver with the workflow technology through LevelPath. It also is a single source for all the information, since we're trying to get everything off SharePoint and moved into LevelPath. And it's also an auditable process, so it provides traceability that we just didn't have before. So with workflow transformation, this just gives you an idea where we're at now. So we've moved our total cost of ownership dashboard off SharePoint into LevelPath. So this is one workflow that we created. And also we've added our category strategies to LevelPath as well. But this really just gives you a visual of what it might look like. So in the past with SharePoint, we would submit our request through SharePoint, then we export it to Excel, and then we create a dashboard in Excel. Through LevelPath, we send the request through LevelPath, and the dashboard is pre-populated, looking something like this. And with the category strategies, we get automation as well, because in the past with category strategies, we used to drop them in SharePoint, and then we have to input all the information manually. But in LevelPath, we just drop it in, and all the key criteria that we think are important that we should be calling out within our category strategies are populated. So as I mentioned, capital projects and change orders, this is a key project and effort for us. We run a lot of capital projects annually, well over 100, and a lot of them are conducted at the shop level, and that's when we really need to get their buy-in and involvement with this tool. But our strategy has been to try to get some quick early wins, like I mentioned, and that's really getting into the change order process. We don't have an automated process now; it's manual, but we want to use that as a springboard to really get more visibility, more involvement, more engagement, and more collaboration with our capital projects. So the idea is with our capital projects, we want to be able to have all of our key stakeholders involved very, very early on in the process, even before competing suppliers are identified, before our specs laid out. We want to make sure everybody's involved early on in the process, because if we're able to do that, if we have legal, we have tax, we have insurance, we have all the relevant cross-functional departments involved in the process early on, it should help us reduce risk because things aren't missed. Should help us improve cycle time because we aren't scrambling at the end. And it should help us make sure we have the right contract language in place too. And potentially if we're involved early, procurement's involved early, we can identify potential new suppliers or alternative suppliers for specific categories, which ultimately will save cost. So the tool, this is pretty cool too. It's mobile and it's scalable. So this is a little bit new for us, but we've been using LevelPath on our phones. So there's an app for LevelPath. So if you receive a request, say for a savings request through LevelPath, you're able to review it and approve it on your phone. And really that functionality works for any workflow. Any workflow that goes through LevelPath, you can review it and approve it on your phone. And another thing that's pretty cool that we've been working on over the past couple of months as far as implementation goes is we've pulled our vendor spend from SAP and put that into LevelPath. So if you have any specific questions about spend for specific vendors at GATX, we're able to go in the tool and pull that vendor spend quickly. So you don't necessarily have to go back into SAP. You don't need a password. You just need to go into LevelPath and type the information in. You're looking for that spend. And then lessons and best practices. I mean, we definitely have an AI first mindset. We don't really know where AI is going to take us. As I mentioned, Level Path is coming out with new work releases every day, just like the selection matrix template that we talked about just came out a couple days ago, and that's been super helpful. So we don't really know where it's going to go, but we definitely want to have that AI mindset because as we've all seen, our responsibilities have continued to increase over the past couple of years and doesn't seem like that's slowing down at all. And this will help us bridge the gap to be able to handle what we do now better, more efficiently, and also handle new responsibilities as well with the same amount of resources. Also, our focus as far as change management goes to help build the credibility and gain momentum within the organization is to identify high value workflows early on in the change management process that are relatively easy to implement to really build that credibility and get some early wins. And ultimately, that's what you need to build that cross-functional buy-in, because if not everybody's bought in, they're not going to be as collaborative, they're not going to be using it, and we just don't have the time to track everybody down and making sure they're doing everything exactly right. We need them to buy into the process and the policies. And as I mentioned, we can't expect perfection early on. It's going to evolve. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn, but we just got to continue to be agile. And that's why we work really closely with the Level Path team. We meet on a weekly basis, and they share everything that's going on in the world of AI that's relevant for procurement. So what's next for GATX? We plan on moving everything off SharePoint and into Level Path. That's a key focus of ours this year. As I mentioned, SharePoint's been okay, but it's not a dynamic tool, and we're trying to get more out of our resources than what we currently have now. We're also focused on project pipeline visibility, so this really gets more into the capital projects. It can work for other projects as well too, but we want to get more visibility earlier on in the process because that's how we're going to save money and reduce risk. And that's the same thing goes for the capital approval process. We want to get that all in Level Path, but that's probably a 2026 effort. But we're starting with the change order process first. And then the last two here, I think they're a little bit related, supplier scoring module and also risk management. One of the things that's been really tedious for us, but we think is very important, is capturing the performance of our suppliers, not only from corporate perspective, but also from our shop's perspective. So the direction we want to go is to rate our suppliers and be able to share that feedback with our suppliers during our regular SRM processes or regular business review processes. And what we want to do is survey our shops, send out questions to our shops and have them provide ratings to us where it all rolls up into a rating that we can share with our suppliers. And that's what I'm talking about risk management. It's kind of along the same lines in a way, is if we get information from our shops regarding the performance of specific suppliers early on, it's going to help us correct issues sooner before they become much bigger problems. And then as far as risk management goes, just with everything that's going on with supply chains, we just want to be able to understand our supply chains better. We want to understand our category strategies better. And we want to make sure that we're aligned with suppliers that are robust and have good supply chains so we can protect from disruptions. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thanks so much, Bob. Yeah, I think we wanted to open it up for some Q&A here.
Yes, we do. We have quite a few questions that came in. And folks, if you get the opportunity and there's a question you want to ask, go ahead and put it in. If we don't get to it today, I promise to send it to our presenters and they will follow up with you. So the first question I'm going to start with is, looking ahead, how is GATX thinking about scaling AI's use in procurement beyond sourcing and contracts, such as, are you considering supplier performance management?
Yeah, I think I touched on this a little bit, but yeah, we definitely plan on scaling it to supplier relationship management. One of the challenges that we have is, as I mentioned, we have a small team. There's only a few of us, and we have probably about 40 suppliers that we need to meet with on a regular basis. And we also have, usually they're quarterly meetings, sometimes they're biannual, and then every meeting, usually about 10 or 12 action items come out of it. So when you just add all those numbers up, it's pretty extensive and it's a lot. So what we really want to do with supplier relationship management is to track all those action items from each one of those meetings and incorporate those into the tool, and then also use the tool to follow up with specific suppliers, because a lot of the times it's just following up with suppliers to making sure that they're doing their action items, they're doing them in a timely manner, and also giving them reminders, and also have them answer those questions, action items in the tool. So it's not just through email. Everybody has visibility to it. So everybody on that cross-functional team within that category can see all the responses and the status for all the action items.
I
Perfect.
like it. You got that one-stop shop there for them, Bob.
Yep.
And Bob had mentioned that you have a lot of, he's not even sure of all the other things he's going to do with Level Path. So Tamari, is there a roadmap that you can share with folks that they're curious about additional items that you're developing?
Yes, absolutely. We can make sure we include our roadmap in our follow-up. As you saw earlier on that slide, there's a lot of applications, there's a lot of modules, and our product team is not slowing down anytime soon. So we are continuing to expand width-wise as well as depth-wise. So bringing more functionality into the hands of you all as procurement professionals. So thanks, Don. We'll make sure we get that roadmap in the follow-up.
Perfect. And folks, in the follow-up, we're also going to give you the email for both Mari and Bob, so you can follow up with them directly rather than taking a chance and getting it lost in LinkedIn. So does GATX do any government procurement? And if so, how did you use AI for those transactions? Were you allowed to?
So I don't have a great answer for that. I don't really get into government procurement at all. Typically, our responsibilities is on the indirect expenses, but that's at the shop level. Also capital infrastructure improvements, and that's all at the shop level, and then direct components, but all of it's for our maintenance network.
Okay, perfect. And was your data landscape mature enough to support supplier AI from the start, or did you have to clean it up a lot before getting value?
We had to do quite a bit of cleaning. So that was part of the supplier enrichment process. So I know Level Path, they helped us out quite a bit with that, but we had to pull the information, meaning our spend data, and be able to send it over to Level Path so they could load it in. And that's part of our goal long term, is to go through our data within SAP on an annual basis to load that into Level Path. So there was definitely a lot of cleanup involved initially. I don't know if SAP and Level Path are going to talk in the future, but if they do, I think that would be helpful as well.
Yes. Included on that roadmap, absolutely.
Perfect, because another question came in and said, how real time is the spend data from SAP? So it's only going to get faster and more real time as there's further integration. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So we
Exactly.
answered 2 questions with that one. And next, how agile was your procurement team in acting on insights before AI came into play?
So I would say with the contract piece, it was much more challenging, because when you have these contracts that are 70 or 80 pages long, it can take a lot of time to search through key terms and conditions. I wasn't expecting that to be a key improvement from the OCR technology, but once we started having some of these questions, that I definitely saw the improvement there. The bid analysis, it really kind of depends. At the corporate level, we usually ask our suppliers to submit their quotes in a certain format. So we'll preload a bid tab for them, and that's how we did it with the Workday and the Scout days. But as we all know, they don't always follow directions very well. Sometimes they'll submit their proposals in a PDF. Sometimes they'll submit them in a Word document. Sometimes, they don't always follow directions well. But one of the things with Copilot allows us to be able to read through all those different formats and pull the information out for us. I'm glad you asked that question, because I didn't mention that during my presentation, but that's one of the key features of the Copilot bid analysis, is able to look through different types of formats. And that's been a huge improvement for us.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And then,
just
go
sorry, Don, just to chime in there and add on to Bob's point, something that a lot of our customers have seen is they aren't able to be agile. There's, like Bob mentioned, there's so much going on within your teams today. There's more and more responsibility being added to your scope. There's a ton of new types of risk with supply chain, with even AI in general. And so folks are just reacting and trying to make sure that, we're keeping the business going. And so our goal is to take some of those things that really take a really long time, that manual effort, and really just get you to be more efficient, save you the time from combing through that 80-page contract and get that question answered in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, and that goes back to, what I'd like to tell people is smart people don't want to do dumb work. So why are we not automating it? Because then we can get them from, standing 2 feet off the ground to maybe 10,000 feet and start acting more strategic. So you're
Exactly.
enabling that person to become more strategic by getting rid of that brain numbing work that they had in front of them. So on an ethical path, and this is to you, Bob, well, actually to both of you, couldn't all companies get the same AI answer or proposal? Would they get the same generic model, the same prompt, and no fine tuning or legal context? Or was the training and how you did assess the risks? So I guess it's the question of, if all companies get the same AI answer or proposal, everybody's on the same level playing field, is that ethical? Or do you fine tune from a legal context, the type of prompts that you put in there?
That's a great question. Bob, do you want to start with how you assess the risks before level path? And then I can answer the other part.
If you want to start, I don't know if I have
Yeah.
a great answer for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of repeat the question, so couldn't all companies get the same AI answer or proposal if we're using a generic model and using the same prompts and no fine tuning or legal context? So to take a step back, we'll kind of walk through our approach of how we incorporate AI at level path. And so one of the key components of our architecture is to not be tied to one specific model. So we've built a flexible layer that allows us to swap different models in and out. And that's really what we mean by AI native is we know that these technologies, these large language models, they're changing all of the time. I mean, even looking at some of our engineering teams, one day they're using one tool and the next day another one is better and the next day a third one is better. So we wanted to make sure that we could keep up with that speed of the technology and be able to bring the best of the best to our customers. Now, with that, I will say that we are doing a lot of the prompt engineering behind the scenes in the sense that if you are working on an RFP in the sourcing module, we're not expecting you to be a prompt engineer to ask, the AI to do something for you. So we're taking care of a lot of the general guardrails there. And then when it comes to the actual information and how it might be different from customer to customer or one RFP to the next would be the information that you're putting in. So when Bob and his team are building, one RFP for some maintenance on one of the cars from shop number one, it might look totally different from janitorial services from the warehouse. So that's where, the information that you're putting in is then being utilized within the guardrails of the framework. And the last thing that I'll mention, I know there was a question about training. At Level Path, we take our customers' data and security very seriously. So we're never using any of your data to train any of the models that we use. Your data is never going outside of your tenant. It is all contained to make sure that everything is safe and secure in your tenant.
So in other words, every customer has their own, let's say their own cloud per se, and their data is within, and I'm not training my model on somebody else's cloud or data cloud over here.
Exactly right, Don. Yep, exactly. And so regardless of which model we might be using, we're always using enterprise grade levels. And again, nothing is ever making it outside of your container to make sure that everything is safe and secure.
Yeah, it was interesting because never with the same prompt would you get the same answer in 2 different data lakes. So interesting. Good question. The change management aspect of it, I had this question a number of times in different wording. How was the change management? Did employees resist? Did they embrace? Bob, could you tell us a story of of how they went through this whole process? People don't like change. So did they embrace it?
So it's definitely different shop by shop and also different from shop to corporate. So
Uh,
we definitely still have resistance. It's never perfect, and we're still working through some of that now. What I can say is that some of the pushback we typically get from, it's not just Level Path, we get it from other tools too, is that they'd rather just send an email out to get a quote back because they think it's faster. And that's really their incentive at the shop level. It's just cycle time. They want to get quotes back, they want to get requests sent out for approval, and they want to get their approval done, issue the PO, and just move through things as quick as they can. So what we're trying to do is really focus on, okay, we understand that, and we want to improve cycle time too. But we think we can help you with cycle time. And the reason for the way we think we can help them with cycle time is using Copilot for the bid analysis. We can help them identify more suppliers through Copilot. And also, once we get all of capital into Level Path, we can get more involvement earlier on in the process. Because typically one of the challenges that we have, one of our bottlenecks is really getting contracts executed quickly. And I think that goes for a lot of organizations. And the idea is we get our legal team involved very early on in the process and get them reviewing contracts early on in the process. So we really just point to cycle time for them to help get the buy-in. But it really just depends from shop to shop. Some of them comply better than others, but we really try to focus on some of their pain points and provide solutions to them.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And
you just
I
highlighted a
assume-
great point, Bob. Yeah, it's what's in it for them, right?
Right.
What are they going to see in terms of value and benefits and position it to them that way? Sorry,
Yeah.
Don, go ahead.
No, you're right. I was just going to say, and Murray, you've got a lot of experience in change management. So I know you can position the business case and help your clients position it for their end users to say, this is what's in it for you. So
Absolutely. I mean, I would love to see more, budgets and funding and headcount, but I have not met a procurement team that was overstaffed ever. I don't know about you all.
I
So,
can't name one either.
yeah, our
And if
team
they
is
were,
here
they
to
wouldn't
help.
tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So absolutely, Don. Our team is here to help, whether it's building the business case, creating that ROI that you can take to your leadership, and thinking about, where you can drive value to your business, whether it's dollars with savings, whether it's time savings with being more efficient, things of that nature. Absolutely, our team is here to help you with all of that.
Well, that's a perfect tee up for the next question and said, how did you justify the purchase of a tool like Level Path? I find it sometimes difficult to get investment for procurement. So I'm wondering, did you estimate savings on time saved because of the tool, or you take another approach? And Bob, maybe you could get one-on-one if there are really details you want to share. And I'm assuming from what Mari just said, Level Path helped you put together your business case. So maybe you both could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we used Scout and we used Workday before Level Path. And one of the ways we helped justify using those tools was savings. And we were able to basically quantify in the past what we got from savings from using those tools. And we really didn't want to go back to the old method of just emailing out. So we definitely needed a tool. Also, cycle time, it was a big part of it for us. So we strongly believe that using Copilot, using the AI capabilities will help us to improve cycle time, not only analyzing events, but also creating them, and also allow us to expand in other areas, kind of like I mentioned before, with change orders and contract registry, all those different areas where we use OCR. But for us, is really more about, okay, we ran 100 sourcing events last year. Now we think we can run 200 sourcing events, and each sourcing event, you get about this much savings from it. And also, you'll get more projects done too. We'll be issuing POs quicker, we'll be signing contracts quicker. So a lot of the capital infrastructure investments that are planned, we think we can beat those dates by using a tool like this, because it's going to increase cycle time. And also, another key selling point for our leadership is that it creates more controls in place for us, since everything's going to be in Level Path, and we have good workflow functionality that ensures that we're aligned with our procurement and capital procurement policies, that the right people are signing contracts, the right people are signing change orders and reviewing these So it's really risk. I would say from a risk perspective is one of our big selling points in compliance, because our policies are there for a reason. So it's definitely adhering to our policies, mitigating risk, and also improving on cycle time, which there's a cost save with that too.
And Mari, I'd say with your vast number of clients that you have, that on that last slide that we had up, you probably have learned a lot of different ways to help your client or potential client put together their business case, because every company is a little different on what drives them. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely, Dawn. Every company is a little bit different. And so when we think about business cases, going back to the change management and users, we want to meet our users where we're at. I think the same thing goes for building your business case. We want to meet your leadership where they're at. So depending on where you think you're going to potentially be asking for that budget, whether it's coming from finance and the CFO or from maybe IT and the CIO or CTO, understanding their goals and priorities and making sure we can back into showing how you are going to help them achieve their goals, their targets with a tool like LevelPath. So Bob highlighted a number of different areas that we can help, whether it's from a risk perspective, a savings perspective, time efficiency perspective. And so really it's how do we craft that and shape that for you and your business to make sure that it resonates with those you're going to present it to.
That's perfect. And so I don't even need to ask the next question, which was what internal metrics or KPIs did you use to evaluate your procurement transformation? You've already mentioned all of those. So how about this one? How did GATX's procurement transformation align with broader enterprise goals, such as risk management or digital innovation across other departments?
That's a good question.
Great question, yeah.
I don't know if I have a good answer for that one. If you can let me think about it a little bit, or I can take it offline.
Yeah, is the company really, I would say, is the company tech forward, or, it's a type of industry that tends to be a laggard as far as being tech forward. But if the company as a whole, as enterprise, is saying, look, we need to get more technology, we need to become more digital, and digitization's, key, then this would feed right into it. So
Yeah, we were never getting pushed to adopt different AI technology, different workflow functionality. It's just we saw it as a team that we wanted to take another step. And as I mentioned before, it's just our workloads have increased quite a bit with everything that's been going on in the past few years. And as Mari mentioned, there's not too many procurement teams that are bloated with resources. So we needed to find a way to be more efficient, handle new responsibilities. But we were never being pushed on our side to adopt any type of AI technology. We're really trying to be a leader within our organization, within our procurement department, and hopefully impact other departments favorably as well.
perfect. And then if you were going to leave us with the biggest lesson learned or unexpected challenges that arose completely surprising you, can you name what those would be?
So honestly, since we've been doing some of these changes for a long time, I've been with GATX 10 years now, so we know the shops really well, we know the people really well. So we kind of knew the challenges that we'd see coming into this process. But what I can say is from some of the lessons learned is that it's really, really important to listen to the shops and really understand their pain points so you can find solutions that align with that. And I think with LevelPath, it's provided us quite a bit of ammunition, because and Scout and Workday, they were great tools, but they didn't provide the same solutions to our shops that we're getting from LevelPath. It's allowing our shops to be much quicker, much faster, even small things like logging in with emails, because that was always it sounds simple, but it was always a complaint we got from our shops, is that they'd have to reset their passwords to log back into Workday and Scout, but we don't have that problem now with LevelPath. So it's really a lot of those simple things that you really wouldn't think would be barriers, but they can be depending on who you're working with.
Absolutely. So no big surprises since you knew your organization so well.
No, not really. We're just really trying to focus on their solutions.
Perfect.
You know the customer, Bob. I would say that, I mean, from our perspective, that was one of our biggest surprises is, we love to obsess over our customers and listening to our customers and learning from folks like Bob and his team to really see and have them push us to push the bounds of what AI could really do and how they're using it differently, across the board, because every business is different.
And I will say, kind of piggybacking on what Mari said, is I think that's been something that's really stood out for as a part of Level Pass program and their service offering is the way they listen to us. And that was one thing we sold to our stakeholders is that they really listen to you, they respond quickly, they're really engaged, and given everything that's going on in the world with supply chain disruptions and AI technologies, they're a good company to partner with, and that's what we're trying to do.
And folks, if you don't know the founders of Level Path, they're two brilliant people, and they always put together just an amazing team whenever they launch a new company. So you're in really good hands if you choose Level Path, but we're not here to be salesy. So with that, we have no more questions in queue. And so I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes back on your calendar. We will get, if anything comes up, make sure you send it in. We will get your questions answered. Make sure you know where Level Path is going to be. You can run into them in September, October, November in person. So make sure you put these dates on your calendar. And I hope to see all of you in Scottsdale, Arizona this fall for our fall summit and awards program. And with that, Mari, thank you so much. Level Path always brings us great content and obviously great speakers like Bob. So thank you again for a wonderful Power Hour webinar.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Thanks, Bob, Don, and the SIG team. And thank you to everyone for joining from around the world. Appreciate the
Around the
time.
world, wherever you are, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or remaining evening, and thank you for joining us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.